Om Shanti, everyone. Welcome again to the session on the inner storms and how do we, more important than how do we, is who is facing these inner storms. Is it the one who's with the butterfly mindset, or is it the one with the caterpillar mindset? So we will take a deeper look at it today. And wanted to start with this very famous quote from Marie Curie: nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. And we will see how that helps us overcome the fears. So I would like to take a brief recap of what we did yesterday because it is critical for us to understand the map of the mind for us to be able to face these inner storms with the right mindset. So, as by now we all know that the real self is this invisible being of light. And this invisible being of light, we also call it soul. The soul has a mind, which is its faculty. The soul is not its mind, but it has the faculty called mind, one of the faculty. It's like one of the arms of the body. So soul's one of the arms is its mind. And mind, today we are learning about the psychodynamics of the mind. So I wanted to just take a quick recap because this is the basis for what we are going to be doing next. And as we saw yesterday, when the soul is the master and awake, then the awake soul's mind is completely free of egos. Whereas when the soul is asleep, then the egos are taking over the mind. And soul is being dragged wherever the mind wants to go. And today the mind is going in 100 different directions, caught up in many different false identities, where each identity has its own priority. And that is why it has become an inner storm today in our mind. So understanding the psychodynamics of the mind is critical for us to solve the problem from the seed. Every soul's mind, the blueprint, the beginning, the original blueprint of every soul's mind is this state of mind, which is egoless. And so we'll take a moment of silence to experience this egoless mind. And in this moment, as we said, the understanding removes the fears. Understanding of right knowledge, the light of knowledge. When these egos are understood from the right space, they have no power to create fear in the soul that is awake. So Raja Yoga, we don't only know about what is most elevated and what is most unlimited about the invisible traveler, but we are also aware of the egos which are transient and limited based on the identity in the story. The first day when we come to this meditation course, we are asked to embrace our truth. The truth, the absolute truth of the soul is that the soul is absolutely beautiful, godlike in nature. Not the character in the story, Susan or Rini, not the character. The soul behind the character is in godlike in nature. And this truth of the soul is always there. And this is the truth of each and every soul. invisible traveler, sees his unlimited true identity, which is beyond belief systems, beyond fears, beyond skills and talents and abilities in the story. So let's take this moment to zoom out of the story, completely zoom out and come and zoom into the details of the original home of every soul. And from here, the whole physical world appears like a small story. This world is like a sky beyond the sky, an infinite expanse of red and golden light. All the living stars belong to this home of peace. They all know they are eternally safe and beyond harm. And they're naturally noble. They are loved by God, respected by God, regardless of their part in the drama. The part could be of a villain, the part could be of a saint. It doesn't matter, because the soul, the being of light, he is completely distinct and separate from his part. There's nothing inauspicious in the home. So take this moment to experience the timeless and to experience the changeless, the true self. And the truth of the self cannot be touched. As the soul experiences his worthiness that comes from his true state of being, not from some accomplishment or from some petty success in the story, but sense of worthiness because of who he truly is and how much this whole family is like a family and a community of stars filled and exploding with love. So it's very important to anchor that the true self awakens and anchors itself in its truth. And from this space, he sees what is not healthy. He sees what is the disease in the mind, the illness in the mind. Because then he can be healed by the Supreme Surgeon. Because the Supreme Surgeon always holds the soul in his highest stage. And in his company, the soul forever remembers that the soul is just like God. And all these egos are like layers of dust. But when there is light of knowledge, what can look like a paper tiger as the real tiger in darkness, but in the light of knowledge, he comes to know that all the egos are merely paper tigers, not his truth. So we spend a lot of time experiencing our true self, true home, true father, and true family. So holding on to this awareness, it's important to understand the evolvement of body consciousness. So we know in the first half of the cycle, it was golden age and silver age. But the third half of the cycle is the third half of the cycle is when all these 10 heads of Ravan, the body conscious egos, they began to grow. In the beginning of the Copper Age, there are still just 10 heads of Ravan. By the end of Iron Age, there are hundreds of heads of Ravan. And what we are doing is that we see that in scriptures, they show that to kill this 10-headed monster or multiple-headed monster today, they shoot him in the navel. And the reason is that don't feed the Ravan. Don't feed these body conscious identities, either through your awareness, through your thoughts, through your vision. Don't feed these identities of these heads of Ravan. So it's very important to use the right intellect for that, which we will see next. But when we start doing that work, when we start using that right mind, the right glasses, what happens is these ego identities, they are not going to sit quiet. They are also going to throw tantrums. They are also going to fight back, kick and beg, and they want to live. Ego does not want to die. But the deeper our experience of our true self becomes, we can see the frivolousness and see the silliness of these identities. So we don't feed these identities. And what does it mean to not feed the identities? To not feed the identities means to not identify with them when they show up. So not take pleasure or pain from them when they show up. So we'll give you an example of one of the students who was sharing their experience, that they have a neighbor. The minute they even step outside of the door, the neighbor is standing right there, and he is very disgruntled and unhappy to see her come out. And it's every single time. It's like as though, why did she even step outside of the door? And because she's doing this practice, of course, this ego pops up of her. Let's say her name is Susan. Don't want to give her real name. Her name is Susan. And it's like this person is looking at Susan like this. But then she remembers, but the soul itself is not Susan. The soul is not this identity or the name of the body. The soul is beyond all of this. So he's not happy with Susan for whatever reason. But the soul behind Susan knows the truth of the soul behind the neighbor. So neither does she take sorrow from the neighbor, nor does she give sorrow to the neighbor. Just because the soul behind that part of Susan remembers and has the experience of who the true self is. And as a result, it is like the soul is protecting itself and also protecting the other from their own negativity. So you become a universal protector. You become a universal savior as a helper of God. Not only you're saving the true self from Ravan's energy, but you're also protecting others from their Ravan's energy and helping them get relieved. And neither do we take pleasure. So for example, there is another student was sharing that there was a lot of snow in Texas just recently. And she was really enjoying the snow, but then realized that not to take joy either from nature or either from any form of physical world, because soon that joy can turn into even subtle form of oh, it's melting. And there's that subtle fluctuation of the mind. So we are not taking either joy or sorrow, neither joy or pain from anything outside. So today we can see even the weather can affect the mood of the people today because everything is so dependent on the outside. There's no sun, they feel gloomy and moody. And so that is why it's very important that we come back to this state here of being aware that soul is immune to heat, immune to cold, immune to any joy and sorrow from outside. Why? Because it is a being of joy. It is a being of happiness. It is a being of love. It gives joy. It doesn't take joy from outside or from others. It gives joy. It brings joy to the world. That is the nature of the soul. Another example, very quick one, is that we have to understand that each one of these egos has its own antidote as well. So if there is, for example, any kind of arrogance about being a good teacher or lowest self-esteem about not being such a good teacher, one can always use the antidote for that. So for example, I'm a good teacher and they are my students. If they are progressing, I am happy because they are my students. But then there is an antidote for it. And that antidote is that all these souls already are knowledgeful. All these souls belong to God. All these souls already know everything. It just needs to be re-emerged. And that antidote keeps the soul away from getting attached to anyone. And so it's really important to understand each ego has its own antidote. And we use the paras intellect or the Patthar intellect. So the paras intellect is the intellect which is we call the golden intellect or the spectacles of clarity. In that, the world of souls is massive. This is what is big in the mind. And the drama is a little tiny box. There's no bondage for the paras intellect in this drama. He sees and knows the truth as God does, the paras intellect. It's like an instrument, just like a telescope or glasses. You put them on and you can see something, everything very clearly. So whereas the stone intellect, he can't go beyond the drama. He's obsessed with drama. He wants to find his happiness, joy, everything in the drama. He's a slave, a victim, and a beggar in the drama as a result, because either this home doesn't exist for him, or even if it does, it's very small. But for the paras intellect, this is his home. And this is a toy drama. He just comes here for a very short while to basically kind of play here and experience things here through the body. And the actions that he does also nurture this little, not this little eye, but the big eye, the eye of the angel. And these little eyes are nurtured by the Patthar intellect, we call stone intellect. So stone intellect likes to zoom into the little world, and paras intellect likes to zoom out of the little world into the big world. Because he knows this is his real home, this is where the real stars live, and this is where the real family lives. And so paras intellect naturally holds mind in this state. These are the few words would encourage you to use it in your meditation to experience the fullness of the soul, how Supreme Parent sees the soul all the time, all the time. So God's vision of soul's perfection. This is Supreme Father, and this is the tiny being. You can see yourself like that. And the Supreme Father's vision of the soul. Perfection is completely separate. And soul, he completely separates the soul from the identity in the drama of Rini in my case. He's not looking at Rini. His vision is only on this being of light who's behind Rini right now, talking through this mouth, listening through these ears, seeing through these eyes. His vision is on that being. He talks to this being. He feels this being. He sees this being. He doesn't see the character Rini sitting in the chair. He has no interest in it. And so his vision influences the soul and all the old stories of many births that the soul is carrying with it. So we'll use these certain words in our meditation, that soul is not just a point. The soul has a personality, a character, personality that is of love, unconditional love, like the Father. Personality and character like the Father. Character of benevolence, character of absolute truth, who's always holding truth. So let's take a moment, and in this moment, we will look at the world down below. It's a nice image, the image of the spider web for the world. It's quite a piece of art when somebody is looking at the spider web from a distance. From a distance, this spider web looks very symmetrical, lovely patterns, something to appreciate. Even appreciate the art and the workmanship, the intricate workmanship of the spider as an artist. But it's only when he's out of it. The moment the insect comes closer to it, he gets trapped in this web and becomes food for the spider. Same thing, something similar that happens to human souls. For as long as the soul is outside of the web and as an observer, even right now, is the soul behind Rini in the home with the Father, observing Rini from a distance, because his world is here. This is the true self, the real being of light. And then observing this drama, Zoom call being part of the drama, observing the drama, and this drama, it becomes very nice drama, entertaining. It's like a treat, an extra experience. But it's when he gets caught up in the spider web, he becomes a prey, a victim. This variety of colorful drama, the glitter in the drama, he keeps getting deeper and deeper into the ditch. An invisible traveler who is an invisible soul, an invisible angel. He now tries to find, as he's longing for that experience of home, the experience of immortality, the experience of unconditional love, but he's looking for the right things in the wrong place. He's trying to make everything eternal in a world which is ever changing. But he has a choice to awaken. He has a choice to come out using the mind, the same mind which has been taken over by egos. He has the power to use his mind and come out of this web. Be there with the Supreme Parent. Know the home as a home and not try to make the web his home. The story is perfect as a story. Nothing wrong with the story. But it's when you try to find security in the story that is when the story becomes a sticky web. And so when the soul, with the power of meditation, Raj Yoga meditation, uses the mind and finds security in the right place, knowing that he belongs to this home. When the soul comes from this space of deep security and then come here and act, it's called a state of detached involvement. He's detached completely. He wants nothing from this drama and the story, but he's involved. And in this space of security, he can actually bring the best out. He can see his virtues being used naturally in every interaction, in every scene of the drama. Only a secure person can love. Only a secure person can be peaceful. Only a secure person can be in absolute truth. Only a secure person can separate the falsehood from the truth. He has the richness of the heart and he has the richness of the head. He's not fighting with impurities. He is seeing impurities from a very elevated, highly unlimited state. And as he observes, the spider web becomes weaker and weaker. All the negative feelings become less and less. And soul approaches drama with secure feelings. And when the web of negativity is removed, soul's innate nature is already highest godlike nature. So let us aim for the next 24 hours to observe the false identities, but from a place of attainments, from a place of experiencing. So the true self is observing the egos. The sign of it is when the true self, this invisible being, godlike being, is observing the egos down below. There will be no disheartenment, no guilt, and no shame in seeing those egos. He's not going to resist seeing the egos. He's not going to feel ashamed in seeing those egos. But when it's ego trying to see the ego, that is when guilt, shame, and disheartenment is felt and experienced. That is a very clear sign of who is doing the work. The ego doing the work? Because ego has got huge capacity of being very adaptable. He can adapt even to spirituality. So if ego tries to remove ego, one will eventually stop seeing egos. But when angelic being, the butterfly mindset, is seeing egos as an observer, not identifying with them, but experiencing his fullness, completeness, nobility, godlike nature, and seeing those egos from a distance. and bringing this nobility into action and not feeding them by bringing them into action. So it's very important to get this very clearly understood. It is the angelic being observing the egos, and they get weaker because he's in the company of the Supreme. And in the light of knowledge and the light of the company of the Supreme, they are really like paper tigers. False, fake. And then he can enjoy every scene. Like he can enjoy this spider web from a distance. So let's hold on to this awareness of who the real self is. Go into the details of your home, the details of being with the Father, the details of what is it being immortal, not just a word immortal. How does it feel to be the being who's beyond harm? And with that awareness and deep feeling, come to this world. With deep feeling of security, come to this world. And then see how you respond in the situations. Make it an experience and not just a word. You could just pick one word, immortality. Let's pick this one word, immortality, for next 24 hours. The true being is immortal, beyond harm. And see what is the experience. Go back again and again and sit with the ocean of immortality and experience what he's experiencing. How would an immortal being be in every interaction? How would a being who's feeling security face every situation? Everything would look just like a change. Life and death, just a change. Whether good or bad, just a change. Illness in the body or health in the body, just a change. Nothing bothers. Nothing creates any fluctuation for the immortal being. So let's hold this one word and go into the deep experience of it until we meet again tomorrow. Om Shanti.